When I was 17, I lived with my parents and I was a night owl, still am. I left my room to go outside for a smoke and I only had my TV on, but it was on the no signal screen since I was browsing on my phone at the time. When I opened the door, a very dark shadow walked straight past me into my room. It was extremely dark. I noticed something moving right away even in the pitch black, and being the polite, non-confrontational dude that I am, I immediately said, "Oh Fleeb, sorry bud," as a knee-jerk reaction. It took half a second to register that it was 2 AM and I was the only person awake. People talk about their blood running cold. Well, mother plumbus, I went ice cold for a solid hour. I sat outside looking up apartments for a good minute. This was a pretty freaky experience for me. I was 19 at the time, working at a Target on a chilly November day. The store was unusually quiet given that it was right around Black Friday, and I had just come in from bringing in carts. Standing there near the carts was a little boy. No older than 8 or so if I had to guess, wearing what looked to be an 1800s blue button-up jacket, the cotton kind that have those big brass buttons. He looked super pale and almost wet, like his skin has a sheen to it, and I swear the jacket was dripping little droplets of water. I turned around for not even 3 seconds to alert my boss about it, in case it was a missing child, and I turned back to find nothing there. No trace that he even existed. No little water puddles from his jacket, nothing. I even went out of my way to look around to make sure he didn't just up and walk off. He couldn't have gone far in that short amount of time. Nothing. To this day it's been the weirdest and freakiest situation I've ever been in. My only thought was that it was the spirit/apparition of a young boy who possibly drowned a long time ago in that spot, given the waterlogged clothing and pale skin, as well as the time frame of the clothing. I lived in a house in the middle of the Tillamook Forest in Oregon 2 years ago with my friend, my dad, and his 3 dogs. One night, my dad went out of town and left us a bag of shrooms, so we decided to make some tea of it. We're both getting into witchcraft at this time and decided to break out our tarot cards as we started to come up. During the reading, the vibes in the room totally change. I'm shivering, it's so cold, and my friend is uncomfortable as well. All of a sudden, all 3 dogs start losing their meeseeks, barking at the corner of the room we were in. We're spooked but start cleansing the house with some sage. The minute we light it, I start feeling better and slowly the bad feeling starts lifting and the dogs calm down. A few nights later, I walk into my room after having a shower. As soon as I enter, I have that feeling again, but way more intense. My body, entire body, is tensing up, goosebumps all over, and I can't force myself to relax. I look up at the TV and see the reflection of a man in a red shirt and black pants standing in the corner right by my door. I'm too scared to walk out of my room, so I go and sit on my bed, call my friend and ask her to bring her sage. She walks in and her body immediately tenses up as well. I tell her what I saw and we sage the room again. Everything goes back to normal. I ended up moving out at the end of that summer, but while I was still there, I would frequently feel someone was watching me after those incidents, but never experienced that tense chill again. I randomly woke up at around 3 AM to drink some water, and when I was about to head back in my room, the TV in my living room randomly turned itself on, but it's not like it went on some TV station. It just flashed a grayish image for a few seconds and then turned itself off. I think I ran to my room faster than Bolt FML. Few days later, it happened again during daytime. IDK why it happens, but I almost shat myself that night. First incident. When I was a kid, my friend's parents ran a convenience store. I remember my mom taking me there one time and I saw the most horrific thing. It wasn't human, it was a dark, monster-like thing. I guess I'd describe it more like a moving shadow with eyes glaring at me. No one else saw it because it was out in the open, and I was the only one acting afraid. Not long after this incident, the store closed permanently. Today, that building is condemned, overgrown, rotting, and empty. I always get the chills when I pass by it on the way to my friend's house. Second incident. I lived with a roommate in college in a small house. It was across from a cemetery. I've always hated Ouija boards, and of course, my friend decided it would be awesome to bring it in the house. I broke it once I found out. I was so mad. Yay, I'm a plumbus, but she knew how much I hated them. Shortly thereafter, it felt like we were being watched. Especially in the hallway. My friend hated walking down the hall. She would always stop and look in the mirror confused. At night, I swear there was deep growling each night right beside my bed. No dogs in the house. But when I looked up, nothing was there. The last straw was when I woke up one morning with 2 scratches on my forearm. We broke the lease in under 30 days. Though I forgot the exact date, I will still write my story here. One night, during mid to late 2018, I was walking through a hallway that was slightly lit by some candles in a corner to get to my room, and right when I was about to open the door, I saw a humanoid shadow quickly whiz by my line of sight until it reached the dark and disappeared. I flinched and took a step back, but after a short jolt of fright, I entered my room. During January of this year, the figure made a return, but this time, farther down the hallway and in broad daylight. Again, it quickly reached the dark and disappeared. The second confrontation left me confused, rather than scared. Finally, my younger brother says he has not seen the shadow figure. This one is short, but it creeps me out still. It happened sometime around a year or 2 ago from right now. I think it was sometime in the early morning. Around 5 or 6 AM. I was in bed sleeping, and I guess I was about to wake up because I opened my eyes. What I saw was a dark figure standing over me staring from my left side. It matches the description of what people have called shadow people. I couldn't move. I couldn't scream. I was frozen. It stayed there for about half a minute before fading away. I practically jumped out of bed, freaked out, and stayed up. I was not going back to sleep that morning, that was for sure. My mum still talks about this to this day and I still have a strong memory of the incident. Now I must have been around 9 years old at the time and we were living in a house that my mum still talks about all the creepy paranormal stuff you would see and hear in that house. I remember my mum being on the computer in the office and me standing behind her. I remember she was clothes shopping and slowly scrolling through the website. I think I may have been talking to her or asking her for something, as that is why I was stood behind her. Anyways, just to my right was the living room, and dividing the office and living room was a wooden framed glass door sort of thing. In the living room was my dad sleeping on the couch, as dads normally do. Now, I remember slowly looking to my right and through the glass door was this huge 7 feet almost touching the ceiling figure standing over my dad. From what I can remember, that figure is imprinted in my memory, tall with a very dark color, a crushing black that you can't forget. Being 9 years old, I immediately started screaming and as my mum quickly turned around to ask what's wrong, it was gone. I remember my screaming also woke up my dad immediately. Being a 9-year-old, any adult would think it was just my imagination, but my mum and dad have always believed what I saw to this day, as they also experienced many creepy things in that house. My mum heard little childlike footsteps running across the hallways when she was home alone, people talking in wardrobes, laughing coming from the bathroom at midnight. The one with the figure was my first encounter, the second was not as scary but also still sticks with me. I remember getting out of bed as I couldn't sleep, it was late and I can hear my parents talking downstairs. I was stood at the top of the stairs and as I was just about to take my first step, I felt something push me down them. I remember falling down the steps until I hit the middle platform, as the staircase had a halfway platform. I've always thought that I could have just slipped, but I know I felt something push my back. Very creepy house that my parents are glad to have left behind. When I was younger, I used to do my homework on the ground. This one time, I did my homework near a table in the living room. While I was working, I saw the lower half of someone's legs walking from the hallway to the kitchen, passing the coffee table. I never saw anything above the knee and I was scared out of my mind and I ran to my room looking for my mom.